So everyone tells you just start. And actually that statement or that phrase might actually destroy your career before it even begins. Sounds dramatic, right? But let me stick around as I show you or explain to you why this actually would be disastrous to your career. One of the things we know that in the industry, it of course involves a lot of things. It involves a lot of sectors, a lot of knowledge, a lot of learning, a lot of every advice that is out there. Of course, everyone will be telling you just start the secret behind everything, or the secret behind getting doing things is basically starting. But I'm going to show you how all these can contribute to a lot of burnout, a lot of frustrations, a lot of issues when it comes to your career. And this is basically what you need to avoid for you to get or to forge forward within or in your career. So let's take a scenario. Imagine this. Today you ask someone, I want to get into GIS. What do I need to do? The first thing they tell you is, first of all, you need to start with the basics. So you go download a QGIS software or an ArcGIS software or whatever software that you're comfortable with, and then you start basically learning that software. 2 days later, you find another documentary or another guy online or another colleague who tells you, instead of this software, you need to learn this software. And then you start getting confused. You're like, I've just started this 2 days ago. Now I'm into another software that I've been told this is actually the one that's recommended in the industry. But immediately after you start that one, in the next 2 days, you hear of another software. So within a span of 5 days, you've heard of 3 software, and actually you're told that this is what needs to take you to the next level in the market. So it's very confusing. And the next thing you're going to hear is all advices around new tools, new software, new platforms that are coming out, because every day there are new libraries, there are new software, there are new platforms that are coming out. So suddenly you get yourself researching. You open a lot of tabs, you do a lot of search. I need to know this and this. How do I get ahead on this topic? How do I become a GIS developer? How do I become a GIS analyst? How do I become a professional? And at the end of the day, you are so frustrated, you are so confused, and eventually you start feeling the burnout, or you start feeling the frustrations of starting something that you thought you know or you would be smooth, but it ends up being so confusing. So how that sounds so familiar. Yeah, that sounds familiar to many. And that's just the start thing, or the start advice that many or most of the advice out there usually portray. Why is just starting a trap? So we need to get fast, because we need to understand where we are coming from and how we are basically be able to come from there and be able to forge forward. So here is usually what happens. You become someone who basically following a lot of advices out there, and these advices are from different perspectives or different fields or different applications. So it's not that the advice is wrong, but the timing or what you need to learn is not aligned with what you're getting as the advice. So the moment you start, you just start. So you fall into some traps, and these traps will include, for example, you'll be hopping from one platform to another, one software to another. The other thing is a lot of confusion around fundamentals, because of course everyone will tell you before you maneuver anything into GIS, you need to do a lot of fundamentals. You need to understand projections. You need to understand what is data, what is spatial data, what is attribute data. And eventually gets you into a confusion loop, because of course at the end of the day, the burnout that you'll feel will be after trying so many things that are not working. You get yourself a tutorial. This tutorial tells you that you need to do this. Another tutorial tells you there's another method. And the tutorial tells you don't need to do that. You actually need to do this. So all that is basically an example of what you can get or the traps that you can get within the just starting mechanism. So it's not about what or the products that you need to produce, because eventually you don't want to miss the goal. So what will be the result? You feel like you have been working really hard, you've done your best, but zero results. And without zero results, let me tell you how you can basically navigate or change the narrative. Unlike in many fields or many technical fields, geospatial field or geospatial sector is one of the sectors that is not linear. And what do I mean by it's not linear? It involves a lot of other fields or a lot of other sectors, because GIS on its own, it's not like a standalone application or a standalone sector. So if you are, for example, focusing on GIS in business or GIS in a certain application, you need to understand the basics of that field for you to basically be able to forge ahead and have a powerful narrative. So it's a multidisciplinary field, which will of course combine sectors such as geography, data analysis, data science, machine learning. All those are sectors that you'll find when you're working with the GIS. So here is the truth. You do not need to just start. What you need is you need to start with clarity, or you need to start with a purpose. You need to ask yourself these questions. 1, what is your end goal, or what is my end goal? What do I need to do? What do I need to achieve? Then the other thing is, who do I need to get a solution for, or who do I need to help? Is it the public? Is it government? Is it fellow colleagues? Is it fellow groups? Is it a community? And all that. Then the other thing is, what problems are you solving? Because you might be solving a problem that is within the transport industry. So probably there's a line that you need to follow, or a path that you need to follow when it comes to transport. If you're working with the water sector, then that's another application, another whole line of application. Then the clarity aspect of this thing, the moment you ask yourself these questions, you become, or you basically have some sense of direction. And this sense of direction is what we are calling clarity. And clarity, of course, with purpose is basically helping you, or will help you go further into the sector. So how do you start with a purpose? I've already mentioned the questions that you need to ask yourselves or yourself. And I've also mentioned about why this thing, you're not alone, because so many people have fallen into this trap, including myself. And of course, there's always a starting point. And when you start, as you move forward, everything starts getting clear. So the idea is not just start. I know this you've had in very many tutorials, or many talks, or in many documentaries, or whatever you've been watching or listening to or reading, but start with clarity. How do you start with clarity? How do you start with purpose? So one thing you need to do is you need to understand, as I mentioned with the questions, you need to understand what you basically want to solve, or what you want to learn. And from that, you need to pick one entry point. So this entry point might be a tutorial. It might, for example, be a software. So you're following a tutorial on a software. And because you already have a purpose and you already have the goals outlined, you know what you need to learn in that specific software. Then after that, you need to connect your work with real world problems, as we may term them. So is it something to do with flooding? Are you mapping flooding? Are you mapping population migrations? Are you planning routes for fleets within an organization? Then with that, because you've already identified, or you already have a purpose of what you need to do, now you can actually continue learning. It's like more of incremental learning in that specific line, because you already understand what you want to achieve. So you can of course expand again with purpose. Don't just expand your knowledge, expand with purpose, because expanding with purpose will also open other doors that were locked when you started, but now they're getting clear and the doors now start opening. So expand with purpose. The other thing is, whenever you're starting, of course, look for the right materials, look for the right details, look for the right people, and look for the right paths to follow. Of course, there are paths, just like we have highways, we have lanes, we have streets. Of course, every of the paths that you follow will lead you somewhere, and it's good to start somewhere with purpose, get to point B, then from point B chart another path, and you follow that. So of course, don't plan for 3 years or for 5 years. It's good for long-term plans, but it's good also to look at 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 1 month, and all that will basically align you to the goal and the purpose that you wanted to achieve. Let me ask you, when you started in GIS, what are some of the things that you've seen that are very hard or that have been so difficult to you that you've been able to actually experience burnout or confusion? I would like to really know that, and you can actually comment down there in the comment section, and I want to know what really the issues that you faced, because it's through this that we are able to share and see or understand how basically we've been able to learn in the industry. So drop a comment down there and let me know what you do. So the next time someone tells you just start, of course, you know that's the recipe for wasted effort, and instead of that, just start with clarity, start with purpose, move with purpose, expand with purpose, and with that you'll be able to forge ahead in your career. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, and of course you'll be able to follow more of the videos like this, and you become a fan as we grow the industry within the geospatial sector.